Well, a very special good afternoon, good evening, welcome friends once again to West Indian Today, and you are now in tune with yours truly, your host and host, Imran Ahmad. I want to say thank you to you, as always, for tuning in to today's program. It's a pleasure, it's a delight, and an honor coming into your homes, into your television sets, into your hearts, and into your lives as well. Thank you for affording us this great opportunity. Well, friends, as I've been saying for the past few weeks, if you've been watching some of the other programs that I've produced in this particular nature, I've opened the program just so you can get a gist of what's to come. And I've said it that this is my favorite time of the year, and I'm not talking about Christmas, I'm talking about election season. Every form of local government, the bid is up for almost every form of local government, whether it's a city council, whether it's for mayor, or anything of that nature. And today, joining with me in conversation is a gentleman who is also running for mayor under the Independent Party. I just want to remind all our viewers that over the past few weeks, we've been in conversation with several candidates of different parties. Now remember, these programs that we present to you, this is not to neither publicly endorse nor to throw our support towards a party, towards a candidate, but it's mainly to provide a platform for the candidates so that they can relate the message to you, the viewers, who are also voters as well, so that you can make a decision come election day. Joining with me in conversation is none other than the Independent Party's very own candidate for mayor, Mrs. Scott Berry. Sir, I want to say welcome to our program.
Thank you very much. I have been on TV before, but not for years, and this is the first interview I've had for the candidate for mayor of New York City. So it's a first for me also, and I appreciate it. I do want to just say one thing, and just to be clear, and this is a little confusing for people. There is an Independence Party.
Right.
But I'm running as an independent.
Okay.
Totally independent. So my name will not appear on a party line. It will just appear as a true independent, not part of a party.
Okay.
So that may be a little confusing.
Okay, great. So I think that would be the first topic of our discussion. But as always, whenever we invite a candidate, whether it's via Skype or anything like that, we often give our candidates the first opportunity, an opening statement for all our viewers, the South Asian and the Indo-Caribbean community and all the other communities as well, who you would represent if elected mayor, to basically get an understanding of who you are and what brought you into the race.
Okay. Well, I'm a professional musician by trade. And I also have been very involved in church work, music community work. In Georgia, I founded a music society. We did all types of different concerts. We did Black History Month concerts, Messiah with orchestra, Broadway and opera concerts, solo piano, orchestra concerts. And when I decided that I would run, and throw myself out there at this late date anyway, I messaged a friend of mine who I have argued with for years, and he and I are quite the opposite. I grew up fairly conservative. He is very liberal, and really for years I just hate about 80% of what he says, and he hates about 80% of what I say. So I messaged him and I said, Jose, I really would love to have you as an advisor if this goes anywhere.
All right. Okay.
And he said, wow. Really? And I said, yeah, because I need you to hate what I say. I need you to hate where I'm coming from, because I need to understand where you're coming from. I need to understand why you believe the things you do about society. Okay. I need to hear that, and we need to hear each other, because that's how I grow. That's how I learn.
Right.
And I think that's probably the most important thing that I want to bring to our students and to our communities is argue, believe, love, hate. And by the way, hate's okay? Just don't hate people.
Don't hate people. Okay.
Don't hate people.
Right.
You can hate what they do. You can hate what they say.
Just
hate can be a great motivator. Hate's a great motivator.
Right.
Okay? You would hate someone, or you would at least hate what they've done, and probably the person too, if they killed your son and chopped his head off, and which happened to John Walsh's son.
Right.
And because of that anger, he started America's Most Wanted.
Correct.
And so that's the kind of thing that good hate can do to hate what is wrong. We hate prejudice. We hate when a young teenage lesbian girl is beat up for being lesbian. We hate when, I forget the name of the fellow that was tied to a fence and tortured a few years ago, quite a few years ago now, for being gay. You know, we hate the injustices done to people.
Correct.
And so we want to do good and use those motivations to do good for society.
Let's get into education. As you mentioned on your website, which is actually Scott Berry for Mayor, that's the website, you spoke about education, the problems with education. One issue in particular you spoke about is that more than 521,000 teachers have either been faced with an incident of violence by a student or threatened by a student with some violent act. Now, you being the mayor, how do you basically bring down that, in what we define to be failing schools? I think that is something that attributes to a school failing. Right. In addition to that, there are lots of teachers who feel that students are willing to learn, but the city is cutting back on the resources to provide the quality education. So how do you identify with how a school is failing? How do you provide better resources to schools, and also the incidents with reducing violence in schools?
Okay, well, remind me as we go through, and I'll address each of those issues. Let me just say, first of all, there was a study done, and that was across board, all across America. There were, in 1 year, that was 2011, 2012, there were 210,000 teachers actually, or incidents of teachers being physically attacked.
Right.
And there were 352,000 incidents of teachers being threatened with physical violence, over 500,000 altogether. A high number in New York, I think it was 7% of our teachers had been physically attacked, 11% had been threatened across the state in that same year. What I would like to say to all the teachers in New York City is that when I become mayor, I promise you I will do everything within my power to guarantee each teacher that he or she will never again have to walk into a classroom fearful of your life. And so the way I will do that is give you authority. It is just ludicrous. My father used to say, every organization will fail, guaranteed fail. Your organization, your business, your church, your school will fail if you give people responsibility and hold them accountable without giving them the authority to carry out their responsibility. So if I have 1,000 people working for me in a business and I hire you as a manager or a supervisor, and you oversee 30 or so, 40 managers for those 1,000 people, and I give you the same authority and they have the same authority over the 1,000 people that an inner city school teacher has over her students, you know that that is a ludicrous situation. It is impossible to be successful. And that is what we have done to our school teachers and to the children. And so the reason that private schools work, the reason that charter schools work, the ones that do, and religious schools and what have you, the reason they work is because they can take the cream of the crop and they can kick out the students that are disrupting the right of other students to their right to an education. Why should my child have the right to come to your child's school and disrupt the right of your child to be educated every single day? And that's what our public schools are doing. And that's what we are ruining our teachers, we're ruining our education by that ludicrous, ridiculous policy. What I would do, you can look at my website, and I'm open for people, if you think this is crazy, I'm open for suggestions. But first of all, I just want to say that we are the worst country in the world for student behavior. How can this be one of the greatest cities in the world and be the worst city, or one of the worst cities in the world, for student behavior? There's not a third world country that allows students to treat their teachers with the disrespect and the violence that we do in New York. And no mayor has talked about that, probably in 50 years, about giving teachers authority and about being able to kick kids out of the school system. But what I say is kick all the kids out that are disruptive and that are violent and that are threatening, and love them. Love those children. We're not loving them. We're discarding them, even within the schools that we have. So we have to start a separate school system, kind of like the old 600 schools, but better. We have to, what I say is a three-tiered school system that puts the nonviolent but disruptive children in. That's the first tier. The second tier is the children that are disruptive and that are threatening to teachers. And the third tier is those that are violent.
Right.
Give them no education, no academic education, but train them with counselors and with psychologists and with ministers and rabbis and imams and anyone to come in, community leaders to come in and love these children and help them succeed and to train them. And so when they say, you know what, I've been a pretty bad kid, but I think I'm good at math. Could I take some math? We say, yes, when you want to learn, we will help you. But our job, the teacher's job, is not to babysit, and the teacher's job is not to train students in behavior. Her job is to teach. Our job as a society, the principal's job, the supervisor's job, the school system's job is to take students that cannot learn, that will not learn, that do not want to learn, that are disruptive, that are violent, to take those students and to love them, to love the babies having babies and teach them how to be parents. That's where we have to pour our money. And talking about money, a budget, we already spend more money than anybody in the world. Do you understand that, New York City? We spend more money, I believe this is correct me if I'm wrong, but we spend more money than everybody else in the world, and we have the worst student behavior in the world. And I ask all the mayors of the past and those running presently and the present mayor, how can this be possible?
Let's go into affordable housing. Nearly 4 years ago, when the mayor ran his campaign, he ran his campaign on the fundamentals that he will provide, or housing will be more affordable by the end of his first term. 69,000 or more people are basically homeless. There's been the largest foreclosure in the last 4 years under our current mayor. You coming in as the new mayor, what do you do to basically rectify that?
Well, I'm sorry, I cannot accept that the greatest city in the world has housing that is falling apart, that is disgusting, that some housing I've been in you don't want to put your dogs into. How is that possible, New York City? How can we be the capital city in the world for finances and treat our poor like dogs? I will fight for the poor. I will fight for decent housing. You know, if I could, I would bling them out. You know?
When we talk about housing, actually, so there's been the highest, I would say, the largest amount of homeless shelters that has been, and I think that the current mayor is saying that if he's reelected, a few more shelters will be opened up in Queens Village, in Manhattan, Brooklyn as well. Brooklyn is where he's targeting.
Okay, but the mayor has, listen, I promise you, New York City, I promise you there will be no surprise shelters. No secret shelters. I will be above board. I will be the most transparent mayor in New York City. Letitia James said she was having a lot of problems with the transparency of Mr. de Blasio. You will not have that problem with me. And we will not hide the problems of housing. And we will not spend, on the one hand, have this horrific problem with housing, and on the other hand, putting them in some of the most expensive hotels in New York City. Correct. And putting the homeless people, maybe some of them with emotional problems and criminal behavior problems, in hotels with guests coming to the first time to New York City. How is that possible?
No, that is true. We actually have heard, and even in Richmond Hill, it's actually planned that a lot of the hotels will be housing a lot of the homeless people. When we think about it now, another issue, because there's several issues that I want to touch on. So here I'm going to throw to you a few of the issues that affect residents of New York City. Crime being up, more than, I would say, 69%. A lot of people are saying crime is down. But when we look at it, there's police brutality against civilians, and also vice versa. There's also, I would say, offenders committing acts against the police. Two names I can throw out at you: Detective Brian Moore. He was shot actually in my area, Queens Village. Officer Randolph Holder, native of Guyana, killed right by Sutphin, doing routine checkups. Now, some of the local councilmen have said that they believe that the communities need stop, question, and frisk. If you are elected mayor, do you think stop, question, and frisk is constitutional, or if you feel it's unconstitutional, what would you do, or what do you think is possible to bring down crime in New York City? Another thing that I also think I would like for you to touch on really quickly is that crime has also gone up in the subways. Lots of crimes have gone unreported. So what do you do to encourage people and also transit police to basically get to a crime scene as quickly as possible?
Well, first of all, you can't have a mayor who hates on the police department and expect the police to respond with loving kindness and going out and doing all they can for the citizens when they feel like that anything they do is going to get them in trouble. Okay, right. So I think that's one of the reasons that crime is up in the subways and such, is that the police feel like they're kind of hand-tied and hog-tied, if you will, that they just have to be extremely, extremely cautious.
Correct.
Which I think, on the other hand, well, they should be cautious,
right,
and they should be extremely cautious. But we don't need to put on them the extra pressure, right, of feeling like we all hate each other. And that's where the past administration has taken us. That, you know, the press feel like the police hate them. The police feel like that the poor and the crime community hate them. And so we have this ongoing hatred. Listen, I've been on both sides of that fence, and I believe that we can learn to come together, talk to each other, have the police and the community work together to solve the issues of stop and frisk. Is it constitutional? I think some of it may be, and I think some of it may not be, but that's something that the community has to determine together. And let me just say this to the community. If you feel that stop and frisk is absolutely in every instance unconstitutional, then let's come up with some solutions. Come up with solutions. Tell us how to fight crime. Tell us how to make it effective in the subways. Tell us how you can feel safe walking down the street at midnight. Tell us what we can do. Do we just need police on every corner? What is it that we need to do? And let's debate and talk about those issues. But let's support our policemen. Yes, one of the things I want to teach the children in school, in these classes, and again, they're not religious classes, they are behavior classes. Just right, be a decent citizen.
Okay.
And it has nothing to do with whether you're religious or not. If you're religious, fine. If you're not, fine. But we want to teach children, what I want to teach children and our youth is how to make an appeal. When you have a bad teacher who abuses you, when you have a bad policeman who abuses you, let's work together with the communities and say, we're going to set up effective appeals. How to appeal, how to make it known this cop is bad. If I'm the mayor and a group comes to me and says, this cop is a bad cop, I will talk to the commissioner, we will investigate, we will deal with that cop. And either we will retrain him like we're going to retrain our students to have good character and good behavior, or he will be gone. Okay, that's what we have to do. We have to work on how to solve our problems by caring for each other and not hating each other.
Now, here we're reaching out to members of the South Asian and Indo-Caribbean community. Lots of these issues affect them, but here I'm going to touch on a few of them. The core of the issues that affect the communities, of South Asian and Indo-Caribbean descent. In the last 5 years, hate crime has gone up against Muslims. Actually, there has been, certain people feel that it's justified because what's happening on the bigger picture, but still, nevertheless, innocent taxpayers, civilians, have been actually a victim of hate crime. People's tires have been slashed, people have been shot, they've been killed. You being the mayor, what do you do against hate crime? Another thing that I would also like to talk about is ethnic schools. Here in New York City, we have several Christian schools, we have several Catholic schools, Islamic schools, but a great percentage of New York City's population consists of Hindus. Not one Hindu school in New York City. How do we get that done? And finally, Diwali, one of the biggest holidays of Hinduism, the Festival of Lights. What's the procedure? If you're mayor, would you be able to make that a holiday for public schools, for the children in public schools?
Well, You know, I was just thinking about this the other day, and what I would love to do is do everything possible for every community, okay? Celebrate your culture. That's the great thing about America. You know, look, come to America, assimilate into our culture, but celebrate your own culture. I don't want your culture to go away. I love different cultures. I love the food, I love the festivities, and we should all celebrate one another's cultures. You don't have to, but as mayor and as anyone who is involved in city government, we should greatly appreciate our incredible diversity. You just don't have this opportunity unless you're in a large metropolitan city in countries across the world, and there are just not that many that have this kind of diversity. I would love to learn more about this wonderful holiday. And as far as getting into the schools, I was just thinking about this question because, you know, they've really changed the procedures. They've changed the rules over the past 50 years. We don't have religious holidays, basically. We don't call Christmas holidays. Right. We don't call Easter holiday. We used to. We don't have those anymore. We have spring break. We have winter break.
Correct.
Okay.
All right.
So that the Muslims are demanding holidays for Eid or holidays for this or that, or the Hindus want a holiday for their religious holidays. Quite frankly, what we do for one, we have to do for all. Okay. We certainly will have to go back to calling Christmas holidays and Easter holiday if we do that, because you have to treat all religions equally.
You mentioned in the very beginning that there is a major confusion with yourself, you know what I mean, on the ballot. You said you're running as an independent, but not under an independent party. And right. You also mentioned in the beginning that, you know, you have a friend who believes in the party of, or the beliefs of liberal, you being a conservative. Now, what distinguishes you as a candidate separate from the Republican Party, those who are of the Conservative Party? What separates you from the Progressive Party? And if you are elected mayor, what's your first law of order or first order of command?
Well, my first thing, as I said, as mayor, would be to give teachers authority in the classroom. Okay, that's my first thing. Okay, we have to love our students. The most important thing about New York City is our future. The most important thing is training students. We have students that go out and can't get a job because they don't want to clean the bathroom. They have no idea of how to respect authority. Okay, right. So that's the most important thing to me: the future of our children. Correct. And of our city. Then I believe that the important thing as running as an independent. Listen, I've been Republican my whole life, but I've always, for the past 30 years, I've called myself a demo pub because I love seeing, as I've already said, I love seeing both sides of the fence. I have a great concern that I was making $15 to $20 an hour painting houses 35 years ago.
Correct.
And if I get a job here in New York City, going back to start painting houses again, kind of from the bottom up, I might be lucky if I make $10 an hour. $10 an hour.
Correct.
And a lot of New Yorkers are out there working for $8, $10, $12, $15 an hour, which I was doing 35 years ago, painting houses. So for the Republicans that say we don't believe in a minimum wage raise, I said, what planet are you from? How much money are you making? Do you want everyone that's poor to live 20 people to a house? So I have a great concern for those that are struggling in our city. I will be the first mayor that's been on food stamps, okay? A couple of years ago, I had to go on food stamps, okay? If you've been on food stamps, you can vote for me, okay? I understand the pain. I understand sometimes we bring hardships on ourselves, but after my divorce and some things happen, I've struggled and I've been trying to write, and that's another thing. But I understand that sometimes you need help.
Right. Okay.
I'll tell you about why I got off food stamps. That's another nightmare. But anyway, I will say that as far as the progressives are concerned, I will say things that might offend you or might offend them. I'm not going to go into it now because of time. But I would just say get on my website and look at the LGBT versus the religious right.
That was one thing I actually was saving for my next discussion. But okay. Yeah, go ahead, Dan.
And I'll just say that the two. We can save it in depth later. Let me just say briefly that, as I say on my website, there's two things about the far left, if you will, LGBT community, and the far right religious community, very far right, like the Westboro Baptist Church. That what I would say is that two things that are exactly the same with both groups.
Correct.
They both hate each other's guts, and they both deny each other the constitutional rights. Okay, you get on my website. If you disagree with me, please let me know. But I think we are wrong to deny each other our constitutional rights, and look and see why I can't agree with the progressives about all this lawsuits and all that going on. I think they all ought to be thrown out of court. They have no business in court, because only you can decide for you what is moral or immoral.
But remember, friends, that if there is any of the issues that you feel affects you as a resident of New York City, and you feel that we didn't cover it in this discussion, there's so many that we could cover. But if you wish to opine, or if you want to get in touch with me, you can send me an email, imrana@itvgold, with your concerns, and also your questions that you would like for me to ask Mr. Scott Berry in my upcoming discussion, which I hope will be very soon, as he is leading up to his race for mayor. I want to give you your final opportunity to reach out to the community at large and tell them why they should support you in this race for mayor.
Well, I would like you to support me, and I think you should support me if you like what I'm talking about. If you don't like what I'm saying, then I don't think you should vote for me. If you want me to be mayor of New York City because you want to change the schools and you want to give teachers authority and you want to bring healing between the LGBT and the far right community, if you want to see our policemen respected and our policemen and our young people in the streets loving each other and helping each other instead of hating and fighting each other, if you want to see our society change from non-caring to caring, if you want to bring the rich people together with the poor and say, listen, make all the money you want, but care for those around you and help them and supply their needs. If these are the kind of things that you want to be addressed that aren't really being fully addressed now and aren't really, I don't think, really effectively being talked about, then I think you should vote for me. I'm not a successful businessman. I'm not a politician. If you don't like that, this is America. Thank God you don't have to vote for me. But I do believe I bring a different perspective, and I believe a common sense perspective. And I want to work with New York City, the residents of New York City, in a common cause. And I appreciate your consideration. And please look on my website. If there's anything that you disagree with or any suggestions that you would make, please contact me and let me know your thoughts. And I appreciate especially those people that disagree with me. Let me know.
Well, I got to say that indeed it was a privilege and an honor speaking with you. I do wish you all the very best. And for those of you who would like to get in touch with him, if you want to agree, if you want to disagree, like someone always said, there are cynics, there are critics, so, he's welcoming both, actually, to come and debate with him on his website at Scott Berry for Mayor. It's just right there on the screen. We do look forward for an upcoming discussion very soon. But friends, remember, like I said, these programs are solely just for you, so that the candidates can get to carry their message to you, the viewers and the voters, so that on election day, you can actually cast a vote for whom you so feel is appropriate to represent you in the different fields of government, regardless of if it's city council, mayor, governor, whomsoever is running, whose message appeals to you the most. So we will have him again in the near future. I want to say thank you to him, and thank you to Mr. Ravi Kumar and also the staff and management of ITV for assuring that we're able to bring this program into your television sets and into your homes as well. Thank you very much. This is yours truly, your host Sindos, saying to you, my time with you is officially over, but we always have you on our minds. Until next week, have a great week ahead.